Yo, what's up? It's good. It's me, your boy, Young Marv. Somebody say, what's up? I said, somebody say, what's up? Okay, nice little crowd in the house tonight. But I got some people over here kind of giving me the side eye. Look, the reason why you might be feeling that way tonight is because for an event like this, even though that introduction might be great with my friends, or for even an event I might be emceeing, tonight it seems a little out of place. See, most people probably expect me to walk out tonight and say, good evening. My name is Marvin Malone, and I am a graduate student here at Elmhurst getting my MBA in Marketing and Consumer Insights. I'm passionate about multicultural marketing and reaching those groups right where they are. And though that's true and though that's what's expected, and there's nothing wrong with that, to still be acknowledged that Young Marv, whoever that is still an honest representation and a part of who I am. See, parameters are healthy when they're used to steer, but not when they're used to obstruct and control and further disenfranchise groups, especially those who come from cultures that differ from the power-controlling majority. See, though workplace and social cultures have evolved over the years, their inherent roots have not. See, it cannot be denied that European colonialism is deeply embedded into every segmentation of American society. But tonight, I want to focus on its implications of language and communication. See, in our schools and in most homes, the language that's taught is standard American English. And for a lot of folks, that's used in every interaction. But for many others, it's not. See, for our immigrant friends, it might be their mother tongue from their homeland that they use in their private circles or at home. Tonight, I want to talk about Black Americans with roots stemming back to American slavery. See, much like their counterparts at other stops in the African diaspora, African Americans have their own way of communicating. AAVE, or Afro-American Vernacular English. See, though it derives from standard American English, it's a bit different. At its onset to research and when it entered into society, it was referred to as Ebonics or Ebony Phonics, the language of Black folks. It was seen as a subset of slang. And that may not seem like a big deal since slang is a subset of jargon, but they're quite different. See, jargon is seen as expert language used by folks in the same industry. It's pretty honorable if you can use jargon well, but slang was different. See, slang was referred to language used by those who were low or poor or disreputable, often referred to as the language of thieves. See, but AAVE is so cool. See, it has evolved throughout the years, and I'm going to take a walk down memory lane to see if you know some of these phrases. See, if you were around in the 60s, then you may know a phrase that goes, far out. It has standard American English or SAE English synonyms such as pleasurable or great. If you were around in the 70s, then you might know my father's favorite song, She's a Brick. Dun, dun, dun. Come on, okay, come on. What? Let's start. She's a brick. Come on. Yeah, all right. So a brick house is a woman that's referred to with a strong stature. She has a great figure. She's dependable. See, but the cool thing about slang that we know is it's not just dependent on time. It can change based on region. See, if you're in New York City, where I live now, and somebody says, you're, that's what somebody would say to get your attention. But if you hear butters, you might be in Philly with some new Timberlands on, or you could be in Chicago and your hair's getting longer. But the cool thing about AAVE is that it's not just a cool grouping of words. It's a language with its own syntax as well. See, much like hip hop, which is much more than just cool words over a catchy beat, it's a language with its own rules and structure and culture as well. See, pop culture and the rise of social media will make you feel as if it's Gen Z language or it's just something that you say to seem cool or hip, but it's a language that has been cherished and protected by a group and a culture for many years. Let's dive into some research. So studies show that Black and Latino kids who enter kindergarten are typically testing lower than their white counterparts on standardized testing in language, particularly English and language arts, right? So those same studies will also tell you that it's not because of some lack in cognitive ability, but rather because their background and introduction to the language is different. See, they were testing very low on these tests, which caused them to be held back, which further affected their self-esteem, their trajectory in life, and further implemented and pushed the race wealth gap. Whistleblowers noticed what was happening and they stepped in. They brought alternative testing methods using those same tests, but AAVE was the base language. When that happened, those black students tested at the same level and sometimes even higher than their white counterparts. See, what people have to understand is because AAVE is used as the mode of communication in most black homes, those black children were first being introduced to standard American English as we know it for the first time in kindergarten, while their white counterparts had been speaking it since their onset to language. In the same way that we understand that this education system not only did not serve them, but that it didn't encourage or benefit their growth, we must acknowledge and alleviate when these same themes pop up in political, educational, social, and professional environments, particularly when they are marginalizing minority groups. See, we've been taught that professionalism looks one singular way. And because of that, we have been completely excluding the experiences of others. When we are building social and professional environments, we have to approach it with a sensitivity and understanding that others don't have the same experiences that we have and that their lived experiences might be a bit different. Much like women who deserve justices and rights as it pertains to their reproductive care, a fight that I will never have to fight for myself, but I sure can stand with them on. Same for our differently able friends who deserve accessibilities as the standard and not the exception. And these themes can be crossed for anyone who finds himself at the intersection of society. I remember the first time I knew I didn't belong. I was in middle school and I was reading an article and I got to the hallway after class and some boys who I thought were my friends, they came up to me and they asked me to say naked. And of course I said, naked. They thought it was the funniest thing ever. So it became the joke in the hallways and on the playground for months. And though those same kids still invited me to play dates and they invited me over after the game or after practice for snacks, I knew that they were constantly noticing and thinking of the ways that we were different. It then became my burden to find ways to fit in with them and their expectations. See, the same thing that they thought was a joke was really a weapon they were using to point out and remind me that I was the black sheep. This talk today has not been written nor defined so that you can walk into work on Monday morning and go up to your boss and say, "What's good, homie?" Because I will not be responsible when you lose your job. But it is to celebrate and cherish the beauty of walking into every room that you enter as your full authentic self. Look, we don't get to decide when we celebrate people or cultures or backgrounds, no matter how different they are. But when we lead with an inclusive thinking at the intersection of diversity where equity and belonging are celebrated, we will then inspire the next generation of thinkers that will create worlds where everyone will know that they belong. So today, let this talk give you permission to be curious. What might the world be like if you allowed yourself to see it through the eyes of someone else? Thank you.